We've all been there, browsing YouTube, minding your own business, when all of a sudden you see a picture of someone pouring something out of a jar onto their plant and the words garden hack. It's hard not to click. What are they pouring onto their plant there to make it grow better? And who doesn't want an easy solution to your gardening problems? However, what I've personally come to realize is that most gardening hacks likely do more to waste your time than save it. But why is that? Well, within the world of gardening, the word hack refers to something that you can do to get a huge boost of plant growth or to solve your pest problems immediately. It's usually something specific like, prune your tomatoes in this easy way and you'll get exactly 5 times the harvest. What I find amusing about hacks in a lot of cases is that it seems like the techniques are usually one of two things. One, it's clearly not going to work for everyone and you might even ruin or waste something for no good reason. Or two, it's not really a hack, it's just the way that you're supposed to do the thing, like using baking soda for cleaning. Seeing people say that this is a life hack, it's actually just one of the main uses for baking soda. On the flip side, pouring baking soda down your drain and then dumping in vinegar after it might clear up a little bit of gunk, but it's not going to dissolve the rat's nest of hair stuck in the pipe. Believe me, I've tried. Overall, the purpose of any hack, I would say, is to save you a little bit of time, to cut the line and solve a problem using a counterintuitive approach. When it comes to gardening, there are a zillion of these things, but 3 stand out in my mind above the rest. And those 3 are banana peels, crushed eggshells, and coffee grounds. And we'll briefly cover each of these, why it is a thing, how it might help, and where it might be missing the full picture. The theme you might notice, though, is that all of these things are considered waste products. So people might see them and think, great, I eat bananas, I eat eggs, I drink coffee, and I just throw my peels, shells, and grounds in the garbage. Why not use them? Now, I'm a huge proponent of using your waste products to build soil. This is a positive mindset to have. However, there's some huge potential problems with each of these. Starting with coffee grounds. From what I've seen, used coffee grounds are typically sold as a nitrogen boost for the garden. Sprinkle them on top of your garden bed and around your plants, and now you're giving them a surge of organic fertilizer. This isn't exactly untrue, but the reality is the amount of nitrogen that's in coffee grounds is fairly low when compared to other organic fertilizers. That doesn't mean that they're not good to use in your garden. It's kind of more like, okay, yeah, coffee grounds are good compost ingredients alongside dozens of other ingredients. I like to get coffee grounds from local coffee shops from time to time, and I save 100% of ours. But I don't really use them straight in the garden because they aren't going to release nitrogen very quickly, and they lack microbial activity that they would otherwise have if I composted them first. It's actually possible that using a lot of coffee grounds directly on the soil where plants are growing could have negative effects if they haven't been thoroughly composted before applying. All in all, coffee giving a nitrogen boost hack is sort of true, but maybe a little misleading. Next up, we got the old eggshell to stop slugs trick. The idea here is that you can crush up some of your eggshells and spread them around the base of your plants so that when slugs and snails approach, their tummies get cut up and they leave your plants alone. And then on top of that, you can get an added calcium boost for your plants as the eggshells decompose. Now this one, if you've ever tried it, I will admit to having tried it, it's one of the most obvious wastes of time. Slugs will slide right over the eggshells, no problem. Eggshells take years to decompose into anything close to available calcium in the soil. Best course of action for your eggshells is to bake them, soak them in vinegar, and get the calcium out that way. And then you can compost them, and they're still probably going to take a few years to fully break down. Although if you do bokashi, I have found that bokashi fermented eggshells decompose a bit faster. But for our last hack, we have an absolute classic. It's got to be one of the OGs, banana peel in water. Now, I have never made this fertilizer myself until recently for this video. I have not used it, perhaps to the surprise of some of you, and I will get into why I haven't. But first, real quick, let me just say that if you have had success with this fertilizer or any of the other gardening hacks that I just mentioned, that's great. Don't let me yuck your yum. If it seems to work for you, keep doing it. If you find any hack that works well for you, keep doing it. I just want to talk through a teensy bit of what's actually happening here with the banana peel and water hack. Bananas are commonly recognized as being high in potassium, which if you're thinking about the big 3 NPK nutrients that might make it seem like bananas could be a good source of potassium for your garden plants, that is probably true. However, the traditional banana peel hack recommends a 3 to 4 day soak in water to extract potassium. And then when you see the water get a tiny bit brown, that means it's ready to use to water into your plants. But here's the thing, when you soak most organic matter in water for a few days, nothing really happens because none of the nutrients in the organic matter are what we would call water soluble, meaning that they won't dissolve in water and they can't be consumed by plants when that water is fed to them. What is in that 3-day-old banana peel water is a little bit of sugar and tannins from the peel, but sadly no potassium, or if there is, that's extraordinarily small amounts. And you might be hearing this and thinking, Taylor, this sounds exactly like the kind of concoction that you would make for your garden. Why are you discrediting this? And that is exactly why I try my best to go to great lengths to discuss the science and the scientific theory behind what I do, how the inputs I make work, and how they work in conjunction with one another. One of our most popular videos on this channel is about how to ferment rice starch in water, add milk, and make lactic acid bacteria to spray on your plants. Seems like exactly a gardening hack that you'd see your loopy aunt sharing on Facebook, or maybe you're that aunt. Thing is, with lactic acid bacteria, for instance, it makes up a very small percentage of my gardening practice. It's something that I consider valuable. I use it often, but it's not a miracle potion. There's lots of stuff that it can't do. I use it primarily as one part of my weekly maintenance solution spray mix on our garden to help plants fend off disease. I also add it to my compost piles and my chicken bedding, my chicken water as a probiotic supplement, but I will never pretend like this stuff is the whole key to my garden's success. It's a small piece of the picture. It's a single tool in an arsenal of tools. And honestly, the homemade liquid sprays are a pretty small part of the time spent to build our garden. Two things that we make that sound a little bit closer to banana peel fertilizer are fermented plant juice and JADAM liquid fertilizer. Starting with the latter, this is where you take organic matter covered in water and then add a handful of leaf mold soil to culture it. And then you wait until the organic matter starts to putrefy, and preferably until it putrefies all the way into water-soluble nutrients. Then this is used, preferably alongside the JADAM microbial solution, so that we're adding microbes to the soil alongside the nutrients for our plants to be able to thrive. So if you have one of these jars of banana peel water, you could actually just add some leaf mold soil or compost to the jar and let it ferment for a few months. And the banana peel may have decomposed and putrefied a bit. That actually might contain some of bioavailable potassium. Fermented plant juice is something that we make usually with fresh cut plant debris, although it can be made with a whole banana. We'd actually call this fermented fruit juice, and you'd only really want to do it with fresh picked banana that you picked yourself. But it's a completely different process. In FPJ, we're extracting and preserving growth hormones and enzymes and a small amount of nutrition, but really the nutrients aren't the objective. And I'll stop here because I explain these at length in other videos. Point is, when I make these and when I teach you to make and use these inputs, I go to great lengths to make sure that you know why and how they're working and how to use them, what the right context is. And even then, you might be confused because this stuff is complex. Soil and plant science is not something that most people are interested in, and that's okay. But in my opinion, these are a small part of the equation when it comes to building and actually sustaining a garden. Which leads me to the main point that I actually want to make with this video. And that is, you can't banana peel fertilize your way to an amazing garden. You can't JADAM liquid fertilize your way to a thriving garden. The vast majority of the work to build soil, start plants, keep them watered, keep them healthy, grow them through to harvest is hard physical labor and strategic planning and consistency. And we build systems and use these inputs that help aid us in that. I said that lactic acid bacteria is one of the most popular videos that we have on our channel, and I think that it's likely because it's so easy to make. You can do it in a week and have it ready to use. But again, LAB is a small piece of the Korean natural farming system. I think that a reason that people get into KNF is because they maybe see the homemade DIY aesthetic and say, oh, great, I can make that. And then they stop with that one input. But that's the thing. KNF, for example, is not about one miracle brew that will solve all your plant problems. It's about a collection of inputs that you can manipulate and use in precise ways to kind of unlock fertility in your garden over time. Ironically, the primary input that we make within KNF is one that the least amount of people tend to want to actually make, which is IMO, indigenous microorganisms. And if you're a casual gardener, totally makes sense. Of course, you're not going to go traipsing through the woods with a box of cooked rice to try and catch some natural fungi, let alone take that collection through a series of cultivation before applying it to your garden. IMO is the furthest thing from a hack. It's one of the most labor and time intensive gardening inputs that you can possibly make, which is also why it results in something so potent. With permaculture, for example, I think people really like the idea of companion planting. It seems like a super cool way to maximize the space and to plant things that mutually benefit each other. It is those things, but it's also not quite that simple. Permaculture and centropic design is about strategic planting and strategic management that takes full advantage of a growing space, implementing multiple types of beneficials and focusing on intricate designs that make your garden function more cohesively. It's not really a hack, a simple hack at least. And gardening hacks are problematic largely because they kind of trick people into thinking that there's a shorter path to building their garden without spending the time and money. But there's honestly not usually that much time you can shave off. Really, you can save yourself time if you manage to choose a particular path, a particular framework and a goal and stick to it rather than trying every different hack under the sun all at once or one after another. The real truth about gardening hacks is that they add to the noise and distract you from making real progress. Now, this particular problem is far from limited to gardening. It's a cultural reality now more than ever, and it feels more and more relevant with each passing year, month even, as AI becomes more integrated in our society. And what I'm about to say will likely age about as well as prison wine, but AI chatbots are kind of the ultimate learning hack. And by that I mean that they rob you of your critical thinking skills, and they give you all the actionable information that you are almost certain to do nothing with. But people are still going to keep using them, all without realizing that they're making no progress. AI chatbots are the extension and magnification of doom scrolling. They make you feel like you are getting ahead. You're learning so much way faster than you were before, but you're actually learning nothing because you're not doing anything in the real world. The truth is, if you want a beautiful garden, if you want a garden or a homestead that feeds you, you don't need more information until you've actually taken action on the thing that you last learned. To have a successful garden, you have to try and fail. You have to plant seeds in the ground and water them and watch them get mercilessly eviscerated by pests. You have to see what happens when you spray a homemade fertilizer on your plants. See how they respond, if they do better or worse, and then ask the why question. And I think that most gardeners overall drastically underestimate the kind of consistency that is required to manage a large growing space. Your workload will certainly decrease over time as you get control over the weeds in your yard and you get your soil biology locked in and perennials established and much more. But with the gardening hack approach, most people will never spend those first few years making the hard investments in their soil, in their skills actually, to get there. My challenge to you, if you're still watching at this point in the video, is to deliberately take the more difficult path. Not on principle, you obviously don't want to do things that you clearly don't have to do. But if you're putting off a yard or a garden project that feels scary, I can assure you that by tackling and finishing that project, you will feel less regret than if you just watch another YouTube video trying to learn about another hack. If this resonates with you, something that I have noticed that can really help break the gardening hack cycle is a supportive community of gardeners who will encourage you and offer useful real-life feedback. My gardening community, Natural Gardening on School, is completely free, and it offers you that community of like-minded growers who would love to help you and support you in what you're working toward. We have people who are just starting out their garden projects, people who have been gardening for several years, and people who have been gardening their whole lives. Rather than asking an AI chatbot for sketchy insight, consider joining my free community. It'll be linked in the description, or you can scan the code on the screen. Comment below on this video what you feel like you most needed to hear from my ramblings. And if you're interested in learning about some of the main gardening inputs we do make, how you can make them and use them, and how the whole system really works together, you can support our work by checking out my book, A Home Gardener's Guide to Korean Natural Farming. We'll link it in the video description. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.